Hello, welcome to Friday I'm in Bed.
Podcast for midlife women living their best life, but in bed by 10.
So I'm imagining that since you got back from holiday, you must be perfectly relaxed and nothing has annoyed you enough for you to have a moan in today. Is that true?
Well, actually, I went to a gig yesterday, so I have a very fresh moan for the moaning, and that is tall people at gigs. Now, before I start, I don't have a problem literally with tall people at gigs because tall people have every right to be at a gig. But what I do have an issue with, and I did have an issue with yesterday, was when you're halfway through the gig, 2/3 of the way through the gig, so everyone's got their place, everybody's shifted so they can see, everybody's happy, everyone's dancing, when a group of tall, mainly men, walk in like 2/3 of the way through the concert and stand in front of a whole group of smaller women, which is what happened last night. And they were all like, I could stand where I want. And of course you can, except there is like no awareness of, I suppose, gig etiquette, i.e. get there earlier and get your position. Don't just come in 2/3 of the way through, stand in everybody's way and not expect to get heckled. So that is today's moaning from
Right.
me.
I'm allowing that one. You are allowed it. I've got another, again, tall people are great. They could be very useful. It's nice when they get things off shelves for you in supermarkets. It's nice when they can reach high shelves in your house. That's great. And it's nice that you can spot them in a crowd if you lose them. However, I do think that whatever your physical space you take up, you should be aware of that and how it impacts people around you. So that includes things like wearing a rucksack. Well, I'm pretty sure I've done it sometimes, but wearing a rucksack and just wandering around, smashing people around the face, carrying an umbrella, smashing people in the face. So yeah, I'm happy to add being tall to that list. Like, just remember that because you're tall, you can see over everyone's heads. So you can stand anywhere. Get right to the edge, find a wall, find something, or at least just turn around to the person behind you and say, can you see okay? Is there somewhere it would be better for me to stand? That's, etiquette.
Or find your space, stay in it. So that the people behind you will move and it'll be okay. But if you keep moving, it's like, could you just stop moving, please?
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I was going to say sometimes, you might want to change where you stood for various reasons. But yeah, I get if you're going to keep moving once the people behind you move to get out, to get away, then yeah, no forgiveness there. No, that goes firmly under the don't be a dick category. So you can have that.
Yes, actually. And that is what I wanted to say to the fellows yesterday when they were getting very upset that these women were getting very upset. And it was like, mate.
We paid you. We'd like to see. It's equity, not equality. There we go.
Exactly. So that's mine. So what about you? What is your moan of the week?
Mine is excessively perky and ultimately incredibly unhelpful AI help agents. So when you used to open like live chat on a website and sometimes it would go, right, tell us your thing. Sorry, there's a wait of 10 minutes to talk to someone, and you'd go, well, now they try and convince you're talking to someone straight away, and they're like, what's your problem? Hey, I am chatty. What's your problem? And you go, well, my problem is that I have no water. My house is falling down. Do you know what I mean? Whatever kind of, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. Are any of these your problem? And give you a list. And you go, this isn't artificial intelligence. This is artificial stupidity. And please stop being so happy. I've got a problem and I don't want you to be so happy about it. Hey, maybe let me look into that for you. You're not looking into it. You're doing nothing. This is, and it's the perkiness, I think. But like, they've given it a perky personality, but zero ability to actually help you with anything that you couldn't read in one of their help things anyway. They just parrot back the help stuff. And you go, look, I have an issue. You're like, speak to a person. I don't know what that means. Yes, you do. Put me through to a person. I'm sorry, our people only work between 12 and 2, and now it's 12:04. Yes. Or 2:04, and you're like, well, it was 1:58 when I logged on, so if you don't... Anyway,
okay.
Calm, I think you're getting the idea anyway.
Breathe, Gemma, breathe. Do you know what I really hate? I mean, I hate all the AI chatbots because I've spent far too long going round in circles, as you said, when they're like, is it one of this issues? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're like, no. And then they go, oh, is it some of these issues? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're like, no! But do you know what I really hate? And this adds to the perkiness. When they've given them a name. You're speaking to Lisa.
Not.
Lisa, our friendly chatbot. Hi, I'm Lisa. No, you're not. You're not Lisa, are you? You're a chatbot.
You're a money-saving exercise, so you have to have less people on the other end. I just don't believe that they have ever, anyone who needs to talk to someone and go into the chat, I don't believe they've ever helped anyone. Because by the time you want to talk to, I mean, personally, I hate talking to people. So, like, by the time I get to the stage where I'm willing to open a live chat or pick up a phone, I've already gone through all the help pages. I've Googled the answer. I've checked my account.
What I do is very unperky. They go, hi, and I go, speak to an agent. And they go, how are you doing? Speak to an agent. And I just keep doing it. Speak to an agent. Speak to a human agent. Speak to an agent. And then eventually they go, I think you want to speak to an agent. And I'm like, oh, yay, I won. Let me speak to someone. So try that. So that's being loud. I mean, especially ones with names. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
No to the robot overlord.
Yeah.
This week on Friday I'm in Bed, we're starting with Love Island's Jasmine and the backlash she's received for calling out some of the boys' behaviour. She's been labelled a performative feminist, a fake feminist, and even accused of following the so-called pink pill. We're asking why women who speak up so often end up under more scrutiny than the behaviour they're challenging. Is there really such a thing as a bad feminist? Or have we created impossible standards where women are expected to get feminism right all of the time?
Then we're talking about Erling Haaland and why he's been held up as a refreshing alternative to the Manosphere. Happy to carry a handbag, hug his teammates and show affection without worrying about how it looks. He represents a version of masculinity that feels far more secure than the online alpha male stereotype. Some commentators are calling it the beginning of the end of the Manosphere. We're not so sure, but we are asking whether men like Haaland prove that kindness, confidence and emotional maturity have always been far more attractive than performative masculinity. So, grab a cuppa and let's get into it. Well, hello, Gemma. I'm back from holiday. I haven't seen you for 2 weeks. How have you been?
I have been fabulous. I enjoyed the last couple of weeks talking to Laurie and Georgie. It was nice to have something different, but I did miss you.
Good, thank you.
Obviously. It's been quite hot here. Oh, yes, I went to London yesterday with my mum. I had a lovely lunch at Chez Antoinette. And then I went to see the Queen Elizabeth II Her Life in Style exhibition, which is amazing. If you like a vintage frock, it's definitely the place for you. And the beading and embroidery. And there was like some of her luggage. And I was like, I really need to up my luggage game now based on what I've seen here. And a shoebox that was like her wedding shoes, which was like satin lined and had a space for the heel. And I'm like, I don't want to show my shoeboxes in case they get jealous.
I did see it on stories, and I need to say that I thought you looked absolutely amazing. I was lying in bed last night about 2 a.m. thinking about what am we doing for the podcast, and I was like, I meant to say how good you looked in the white dress, and I didn't, and I thought I'm going to say it on the podcast.
Breaking away from black, like making an effort to try things. So I got a couple of like white dresses, and I was a bit like, I felt like I should be on the Riviera somewhere.
Wimbledon. It's where you should be.
And I went for a whole dinner and didn't spill anything down it. So I'm like, and a spicy margarita. I'm very
like impressed. A grown up now.
Yeah, I am a grown up. That is it. I'm elegant and sophisticated.
Well,
How was Spain? Yeah.
Well, Spain was lovely. It was hot. It was relaxing. I read books. It was lovely. Came home, rushed back home to go and see My Chemical Romance. And then last night I watched Garbage. I've had 2 gigs since Friday. And I'm feeling weirdly perky, a bit like an AI chatbot. I actually feel the holiday's obviously done a good job because I actually feel refreshed. I think sometimes you go away and you come back not feeling any different really, apart from maybe a little bit more suntanned or whatever, Yeah,
sometimes I feel quite frazzled, like all the travel and stuff can actually like make you feel a bit more frazzled.
Exactly. Well, I feel like work-wise, I've been like on it since Monday. Like I write a list and I do the list rather than normal when I write the list and go, oh, I can't be bothered to do any of that list and go and do something else.
Yeah, that's established protocol.
Yeah, which is, so that's good. And I went to see Garbage last night. It was the hottest gig ever. I was just so hot. And actually it's not even as hot as it's been, has it? It's less hot, but it was so hot. Yeah, but I'm glad it's getting a bit cooler.
I saw your outfit for that. Very nice.
Sequins to a gig. Revolution.
Yeah. No, I saw you when you were in Spain on your stories, and every picture you put up, I thought you looked relaxed.
Yeah.
You were kind of glowing.
Yeah. The suntan. I am a Gen X suntanner, I'm afraid. Safely, obviously. But just, yeah, it was really. I think this year we took a friend for my daughter. So she was really self sufficient, running
Mm.
around with her friend doing stuff. And my son just, sleeps and then sunbathes and then drinks alcohol. That's what he does. So there was less parenting, I think. I think maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, but it'd be nice as they're getting older, and you're a bit like, oh, I can go take them on holiday and just pack them off to do things.
Yes, and watch the football. Yeah, there was lots of football
And
watching.
for football, yes.
But we're going to talk about, well, ish, a
Well,
little bit
sort of.
later.
We're not really going to talk about the football. We're going to talk about golden retriever boyfriends and
Yes, I just posted on stories that today we're talking about Love Island and football. Who even are we?
yeah, I know, right? Well, we do talk about. I mean, yeah, I don't watch Love Island. I'm not into that stuff. But you're going to tell me about it. So, with that in mind, we'll crack on.
Today, we're going to start with bad feminist, good feminist rhetoric and Love Island. So I've got some notes. I will go through them, particularly as I know that you don't watch Love Island. And it's worth saying I haven't watched it this series, but I am living it precariously through my daughter. So today I want to talk about one of the OGs, original group. No, God knows what that stands for. Originals. Jasmine, who's been on Love Island for however many weeks it's been going on, and she's been getting a lot of scrutiny, particularly at the beginning, because of her feminist ways, let's just say. So I will go into detail, but she's basically called out men's behaviour and just stood up for herself, and she is incredibly clever. Now, I'm going to put a little caveat in here for anybody that does watch it. I think her behaviour hasn't been great recently. As time goes on, drama happens. But this isn't about that. This is about, women standing on business. So she's called Jasmine Gaziza Muller. She's 27. She's a fashion business owner living in London. Her business is called Mahila Intimates. I haven't looked that up. Be interesting to see. Anyway,
Sounds like lingerie.
it does sound like lingerie or swimwear, which is probably why she's there, because she's a businesswoman. And remember, Love Island isn't actually about finding love. It's about, growing your audience and your business and your brand. She is of mixed heritage, of which will become a little bit relevant later when I talk about some of the racism things around her. So she's been written about in lots of publications, The Independent being one of them, who have talked about how clever she is and how interesting she is, basically. She hosts a media series called Smart Girl Scroll, where she shares really interesting essays about politics and drama, Mumbai dramas and films, and just really quite interesting things. So that's kind of a little bit about her. On Love Island, she has called out some of the behaviour and has actively said things like, men don't like women with strong opinions when she's giving her opinion. When she gives an opinion and everyone just the guys kind of override her or talk over her, she's really pulling them up on that. She's talked a lot about the double standards that women have to deal with and the standards women have to deal with. And this is quite new. It's not totally new, but it's quite new to Love Island, because obviously the point of Love Island is you go on to find a man or you go on to find a girl. It's kind of the idea.
To hook up, yeah.
That's the idea. But occasionally some kind of interesting, intelligent women come through with these boundaries. So what I want to talk about, though, is less about Love Island and more about the response she has had. So she has been straight away was described on the internet as performative and a contradictory feminist. And I think that's probably linked to the fact that she's on Love Island for a start, because obviously Love Island, as I said, is basically chasing a man or chasing a relationship it objectifies men and women. Obviously, there's lots of like beauty standard stuff that's reinforced through Love Island. So it's kind of like, it's a bit contradictory, isn't it, to be standing there saying I'm a feminist and yet you're on this show. Although when I spoke to my daughter about this, who is about to turn 16, she was just like, isn't that what feminism's about? The choice to do whatever you want. And she's chosen to do that because she wants to progress her career. I think that's pretty cool. And I was like, out of the mouth of babes. So she's been beginning to be described as having been pink pilled. Now, this is something I hadn't heard of until Jasmine on Love Island. The pink pill is the feminism pill, a bit like the red pill, the manosphere stuff, which we've obviously talked about before. So here we have a woman who is standing on business and saying, no, please don't speak over me, I'm talking. And people are like, she's been pink pilled. Has women's empowerment gone toxic? Was a headline, you know, where in reality she's just a woman speaking up, a little bit like Chapel Roan speaking up for her boundaries, and obviously we've talked about this before.
That's what that sounds like. It sounds like pink pill sounds like an extension of the red pill to me. I mean, not just diluted, but yeah, it just sounds like they found another word to claim that women are wrong for standing up to themselves.
Exactly. And what's really interesting on Love Island, and in fact in life, if you're a youngster, is that if you stay quiet and you don't call out guys and you still are chasing a guy, you're called a pick-me. So you're a pick-me.
Oh yeah, pick-me girl. Heard that one.
Or like you've been pink pilled. So in other words, you can't win, because you could argue feminism is also about staying quiet if you want to and just living your life and just doing your own thing, because like, funnily enough, we can do what we want. So there's been lots of chat about this pink pill. But then from that, it's gone even into she's a fake feminist. She's a bad feminist. You know, it's like there can be a good feminist and a bad feminist. And that's kind of what I want to talk about more, about like, is there such a thing as a bad feminist? If feminism is about standing up for women's rights so that we can have equality and equity in all areas of the world, you know, and in all areas of life, surely there is no such thing as a bad feminist. But, ... on my notes, that then leads you to the kind of turf feminism, radical feminism. You know, there's all these other strings. So what I'd really love to chat about, I mean, rather than Love Island, is this kind of concept of, can you be a bad feminist? Or can you not be feminist enough? Because I think that's what's happening here. She's not feminist enough. She's not in the right way.
I have seen recently, when you see talk about aesthetics and stuff, this, you know, Botox and anti-aging things, this kind of thing comes up with like critiques of, I think they called it choice feminism. Okay. I mean, I'm not, it was a long time ago I went to university, so me and all feminist theory are not as equated as we used to be. But that idea that feminism is just about choice, and that therefore you can choose to buy into some of these things which may be reinforcing kind of patriarchal ideals. I think that's I've seen like criticisms of that as that idea that, you know, are you harming other women by making those choices? So I'm wondering if that's the kind of criticism that they're leveraging at Jasmine having gone on to Love Island, which seems to be a kind of anti-female empowerment in that way, that we're all looking for a man kind of thing. Maybe that's the kind of criticism that's going there, and in that, you know, she can make this choice, but that doesn't make her a feminist. And then but equally, my personal opinion is that we spend far too much time criticizing other women's feminism when we might be more served focusing on our own and what we want to do. And if you want to be, maybe I'm doing choice feminism again, but if you want to go out there and fight for these things, then fine. But some people can you can fight your own little battles when they come up. So calling someone a fake feminist because she told men off for talking over her doesn't sit well with me. I feel like it should be great. Like maybe we're infiltrating a non-feminist space. Well, does that make sense?
Yeah, and you could argue, well, I do argue actually, that have her being on there and saying the things she's done has had an absolute positive effect on my daughter, because she's like, oh, she loves her because she's standing on business and she's, holding people to account, and she's doing that in a way that makes sense to a 16-year-old, because she is young and, you know,
Yeah.
on Love Island and attractive and all those things, but she's also clever and sassy, and you know, she's so I think it's a it could be seen, or it should be seen, as a little bit more positive. I think one of the things you said was about we some women, feminists, will put down another woman for trying or doing something wrong, or making her own choice, but you disagree with the choice, instead of focusing on the actual issue, which is the patriarchy and the fact that we live in an unequal society. So I worry that if we all like band together and pile in on a woman trying her best, we're kind of missing or making a few mistakes, we're kind of missing the point. We're not actually focusing on the real issue, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So this is I feel like there's all these, it's like the surface stuff, isn't it? Like shaving your legs and wearing lipstick and doing your hair, and that's like all the surface stuff. And I don't know, I don't feel like if you, maybe it is patriarchy. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that is it. But if you are buying into that, that doesn't exclude you. That doesn't mean you immediately can't be involved in any other feminist beliefs. It shouldn't be that if you put lipstick on, it means men can talk over you and bully you into things and talk down to you. That should not ever be how it works. And if you choose not to wear lipstick, it shouldn't be that way either. Again, we're just policing. We always seem to end up policing women when we are trying to address the behaviour of men, and I find it intensely annoying. Can that be my moaning, or is that a bit big for a moaning?
I can understand why men are saying she's been pink pilled and it's too much. I get that, because they feel threatened or intimidated. But I'd love to know a bit more about, like, why do women, without it just being internalized misogyny, like what? Because I get it. So if I do I'll post something that is, sort of very pro women's rights, and then the next one I might do a beauty reel where I'm sharing my favorite lipsticks, and people get really upset by that, because it's like, you can't like lipstick, as you just said. You said about lipstick, you can't like lipstick. Well, I can, and I do. So I know it's their internalized misogyny, but like, where does it come from? How do they unpick that? How do I help other people unpick that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you get that it depends. If sometimes those criticisms are coming from the kind of women that say, no, I don't agree with feminism. I mean, that'd be, the trad wife land, kind of thing. Sometimes those criticisms are coming from there, and they're saying she's been pink pilled. That, I can get, because that's obviously, they're like, it is internalized misogyny, or not completely externalized misogyny, and they're like embedded in that world. But women saying I don't understand the women saying that she's been pink pilled from they are a feminist perspective, because you'd think, like, so what is the angle that they take on it then? Is it like that if she's on Love Island and being a feminist, it's weird, or that she's just not doing it right somehow and that's why it's pink pilling?
I think it's multi-leveled, layered. So one is it's a joke that she's on Love Island. How can she be a feminist? That's just contradictory, ridiculous. Then there's women's empowerment has gone toxic. Look at Jasmine, which is definitely a headline I've read. And then there's she's a fake feminist. She's putting it on, or she's not doing it right. It's also worth saying, and I did kind of touch on this at the beginning, she is mixed heritage. And there is another woman on there that's also holding guys to account, who is white British and is not getting any commentary about empowerment going toxic, pink pilled. And as I said at the beginning, if you are watching Love Island, you'll see lots of other things have evolved in relationships and fallouts and all the drama. That's irrelevant. This is about, like, there's also this kind of air of racism within it. And
so there's like the intersection of like feminism and racism there.
Exactly. And I think that's something that's not talked about enough. There is racism within feminism. And feminism, to many people, is perceived as only a white privileged thing, which is obviously nonsense, because if you are pro women's rights, you should be pro every woman's rights, not just women that look like you. That doesn't, or in your social class.
I do think I think sometimes it's difficult because you can't see how these things impact kind of other women, if you see what I mean. So women from different, I mean, I will be the first to admit that my brand of feminism can be very white middle class, because that's what I see most of. I'm sorry, I'm a white middle class woman. I try and be aware then of how people from other socioeconomic backgrounds, other races then might be affected. It's not something that I see regularly. I try and do the research, I follow people, I read other things, and like I try and be aware, but I can never, from my perspective, know how those people are dealing with it. I just can't physically do that. So I know that, when I talk about things, I will automatically talk about them from my perspective, because that's what I do. And I'm not an academic. I'm not a researcher. I'm not, when I talk about things, I'm generally talking about my life and the things that impact me. And I don't want to apologize for that, but I do want to acknowledge it. And I think that one of those things is there's that different brand of are you a feminist activist, or are you just a person that is not going to let people talk down to you because you're a woman? And in that case, you are a feminist, but it doesn't necessarily make you a feminist activist. And I think sometimes that line gets a bit blurred when you stand up for yourself in a situation, or you stand up for someone close to you, or you stand up for things that you're seeing right in front of you, but you're not necessarily aware of the broader picture in the way that an activist might be. So maybe that's where the fake feminist criticism comes from. She's saying feminist things, or when people say feminist things but they aren't necessarily an activist, they're not looking at that kind of wider structure. Personally, I don't believe that makes you a fake feminist. I just think some people can make that part of their life, and there's obviously a privilege involved in that as well, having the time to actually focus on that. And some people don't. And I think it's important to be aware of your privilege, but I don't think you have to apologise for it necessarily.
Yeah, and I think social media doesn't help that, does it? Because I know, because of the kind of accounts I follow and the content I consume, I get shown a lot of more activist stuff or political stuff, which is fine. But then I think I don't, but I see other people expecting everybody else to be at that kind of campaigning activist level. And if they're not, then they're failing, or they're doing it a disservice, or in this case, potentially they're being fake or a bad feminist or whatever. And as you said, not everybody has the time or inclination. You are allowed to want to stand up for you and your family's rights, and actually be quite selfish about that, and not want to change the world. That's kind of okay too. But I feel like we're at that peak level of everyone has to want to try and change the world, but not everybody wants to, or has time to, or has the money to.
There's an active difference between not stomping on other people's rights and deliberately not allowing them, and not fighting for them as well, I think. And I think that grey ground in the middle can be picking and choosing your battles. That little ground in the middle can be a bit of a difficult one. So especially when someone's then very high profile, it's easy to get that criticism because they're very high profile, but they're not necessarily showing what you may want to show in public, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I am quite intrigued by the toxic femininity or feminism as well. The toxicity has the femisphere, which has come up a few times, hasn't it? As that, I find it very interesting that it's started to come up now when the manosphere, and there's been a lot of, the kind of alpha male red pill bullshit out there. And it's very interesting that then the pushback against that starts to get called toxic as we move kind of more and more right wing as a society, what's it called? There is a window. I'll look it up. Political window thing. But yeah, it's I find that quite interesting.
But do you think, because obviously we've talked about, you shouldn't be scared of the manosphere. It's angry left-wing women lefty women that you should be scared of, and it describes us with green hair and piercings. That rhetoric. So when somebody is, she's not being angry, she's just literally standing on business. But she's beautiful. That's implying that the left angry woman isn't. But in society,
she's traditionally beautiful. She's the kind of beautiful woman that the manosphere think that they should be able to get.
Yes, she doesn't look like an angry lefty. She hasn't got green hair. And I think there's then a real feel of being threatened, because oh my god, even the beautiful ones on Love Island are like it.
They're all turning on us.
They're all turning on us. But ironically, she is still getting together with a guy and, you know, actively forming a relationship, whether it's the show or not, who knows. But the point is she's doing what the manosphere wants, but she's just
not doing it in the right way. So she's not winning at anything.
She's literally setting boundaries. I mean, it's the most unradical thing ever.
I think one of the things is with like her being young as well. As you get older, that there's that kind of thing, isn't there, when they start claiming that women are invisible over 40, and you go to who? Like men, bothered. Like the patriarchy, also not bothered. You know, we're not invisible. We can see each other. Hi, hello.
Yeah.
But when we then speak out and say, well, no, you can't talk to me like that, it's almost a bit expected. And they're a bit like, well, that's all right. I didn't want to sleep with you anyway. But when the women they're trying to like pull in with their made up wiles suddenly start spouting feminist rhetoric, then they get a little bit upset. And it's called the Overton window. I looked it up. And it's called the Overton window, or the window of discourse. It's the one where, you know, this is the set of acceptable things, and it's moving to the right at the moment. So, you know, some right-wing things are becoming more acceptable mainstream, which means the far right has gone even more far right. Whereas what used to be seen as like mainstream political discourse has started to feel like it's more to the left. So I think maybe that's where we start getting the toxic aspect come up, is it's things that used to be perfectly normal, like I think I'm a woman and therefore I should be entitled to be spoken to like a human being. When that starts to suddenly move a little bit to the left of the Overton window, or the window of discourse. I feel like I'm in a political theory lesson now.
No, but that is so true, isn't it? And I mean, anyone that's watching Love Island will go, well, she's not that much of a feminist. She's not like, and she's not even talking about it all the time. But if, you know, when she feels she wants to, or needs to, she says something. She's also incredibly intelligent, it's worth saying. And that's not to say that you have to be incredibly intelligent to be a feminist or anything like that. But she's not putting up with bullshit sort of thing. So I keep coming back to the fact that it's just boundary setting. It's like not that radical.
I wonder if she was deliberately put in there by the producers because they knew that she'd cause friction in that way.
I don't know. She was the most successful before she went in and was scouted. She was already an influencer, huge, like really large following before she went in.
Right, so she's used to presenting herself in a certain way.
100%. So that might have added to a bit of the fakeness because she had confidence. But again, I see that in real life, when you see a woman that is confidently backing herself, people are more threatened because, you know, they almost want you to be apologetic for it. Like, I'm really sorry, but I really have to say no, you know, rather than just like, no.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of palatable feminism or palatable boundary setting. It's not even feminism, it's boundary setting.
Where you're setting boundaries and you're sorry about it. Yeah.
You're sorry about it. And she's just confident. And again, people are threatened by confident women. And again, why? Like, I mean, we're gonna move on very, very soon and talk about Haaland and the opposite of toxic masculinity. But, you know, there are guys out there that, and obviously we're talking heterosexual relationships here, who want a confident woman. But there's this rhetoric, isn't there, that confident women, all bad, stay away, they're scary. And it's like, no, we're just, you know, confident.
Again, I think it's quite interesting to see it in that Love Island context, probably, because it's. I don't watch Love Island. I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm sure I'll cause absolute chaos by saying this, but Love Island has always kind of struck me as a little bit more in the manosphere realm, if you see what I mean. Like, we get the lads on there who think they're alphas, and the women want a hot bloke and they want to look hot. You know, it's very surface. It's all a lot about whether you're a 10 or a 5 or whatever, and whether you're matching up with the right person. There's not a lot of kind of, it's not like Married at First Sight where you were saying that they match them on personality. Do you know what I mean? They throw a load of attractive people in there and hope they sleep with each other, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And hope there's drama along the way.
Yeah, exactly. So it always struck me as that kind of end. So maybe that's why. Maybe they decided that it wasn't enough that they were going to sleep with each other. Now they had to argue first. So they decided to
Yeah,
put
I
someone a
think
little bit more opinionated in there.
it's interesting. I feel like they've definitely made a decision to put in stronger women who are, and they were all getting on quite well as well this year. They're not competing against. I mean, they are competing against each
Ooh,
other,
I
but
like that though.
they're kind of forming this girl group. And yeah, it's splintered off, and there's been loads of rows, and the usual drama.
Hmm.
But it has been different, and I wonder if that was planned. But, and I have to say, back to what I said at the beginning about, my 16-year-old daughter is watching it, and she is particularly impressed by these women who are not putting up with stuff or are holding themselves and having conversation. It's not just, they don't just talk about the boys. She's loving it, and I'm like, maybe it's because it's obviously not aimed at us, is it? Like, aimed at us. My
Yeah.
daughter is seeing that and is like, that is baddie behaviour, quote unquote.
Mm.
Um, and she's absolutely, and I can't say anything against Jasmine now to her. She's like, no, 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 no. She's like a role model almost, not really, but you know what I mean. And hey, there's worse things because she's being influenced by, yes, she's beautiful. Yes, she wants to be an influencer. Not my daughter. My daughter is beautiful. She's an influencer and all that, but it's not that bit that she's impressed by. Interestingly,
Yeah.
she's not impressed by her Instagram following and her beauty, although she does think she's beautiful. It's her boundary setting and stuff like that. So I think that's positive.
Okay. And if that is a direction they've deliberately chosen for the show, very much here for it.
Who knows? The men on the show are a bit freaked out by it though, but anyway, they'll get over it.
So for a little bit of a change of pace, I think we should move on to football. Okay, we're not actually going to talk about football. We're going to talk about the internet's new boyfriend, Erling Haaland. Have you seen any of that story at all? Have you seen
Oh,
Erling Haaland on your feed?
I've seen him on my feed. I like Haaland. I vaguely follow football. I used to be hugely into football, and I have watched the game with him and Jude Bellingham, and I was in love with him before, but I'm a little bit more in love with him now.
So basically, he's been everywhere as a bit of a example of positive masculinity is what he's kind of being framed as, shall we say. I mean, he's 6'5" and blonde. He's basically a Viking, and he does this Viking rowing thing when he wins goals. Wins goals? Scores goals. You can tell how into football I am. But he apparently eats 6,000 calories a day. He chops his own firewood. He's like, but then he also collects Hermes Birkin bags, is very clearly hugely in love with Jude Bellingham. He's 6'5", blonde, Viking looking, but, attractive footballers aren't unusual. That's, quite the thing, isn't it? With the wags and all that kind of thing. So there's women who's never watched football in their life who are now just falling in love with Erling Haaland, and they could tell you his goals per game ratio. I can't, just for the record. And I mean, Google put up a little Viking rowing animation. Like, Norway got through to the quarterfinals. I'm very aware this is not a very coherent intro, by the way. I'm just gushing
Okay.
about Erling Haaland. So Norway got through to the quarterfinals for the first time
Yeah.
ever, which I watched because it was against England. Honestly, I was a very little bit torn about whether I kind of wanted more Erling Haaland, because it's been quite a wholesome internet experience, and I'm definitely here for a bit of that sometimes. Him and Neil the Seal. See, I told you I'd get Neil the Seal in. So what I want to get into is why is the 6'5" guy who looks vaguely bewildered all the time, has been filmed comparing himself to Shrek, plays Minecraft, has 7 Hermes Birkin bags, and is now being called like the golden retriever boyfriend. Why is it that he has become that kind of internet hero, that example of positive masculinity? So is it that someone who's just a little bit odd feels like a bit of a relief after so many polished people? Is it a little bit of mystery because he doesn't really tell us anything about his actual life? He has a son, no one's seen him, no one knows what he's called, though there's rumours he's called Odin, which is quite cool. Or is it just that the algorithm's just pushing him up everywhere? We've seen a lot of, obviously there's been examples of toxic masculinity. There's the tennis player who's been accused repeatedly of assault by his girlfriends. There was I forget the name now. Obviously, didn't write that one down, but because I'm suddenly going to bring it up. The footballer who is currently under investigation, yet was somehow allowed to play, and some players refused to shake his hand. So there's a lot of examples of that kind of toxic, negative masculinity around. So maybe we like to see a little bit of Erling Haaland being a weird Viking and going home. He bought a stuffed raccoon in Texas and took it home with him and has done an internet vote over what we should call it, holding a whiskey bottle. Why do you think, why were you in love with Erling Haaland before this?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons why the nation has kind of fallen for him. I think, first of all, he's one of the most successful footballers in the UK and has been, he's the striker at Man U. Man City, my son would kill me. Man City. So, he's already loved by British people, particularly if you support Man City, which lots and lots of people do. I think there's also something about the underdog of Norway. We do quite like the underdog countries that have got through for the first time. Norwegian fans, I was just in Spain, there were so many Norwegian fans there doing their rowing, but also the positivity from the whole of the fan base, and they were the underdogs. So when they beat Brazil, there's that whole yeah, come on. So there's a bit of the underdog thing and people loving him anyway. But I think a big part, as you just mentioned, is the amount of toxic behaviour by sportsmen, that has been on the news repeatedly. I think it just feels like when you see a meme or a montage of him, looking after his team players or looking after Jude Bellingham, when somebody's going up to argue with them and he's hugging people, it's just what we need. I don't think it's 100% because it's him. I just think it's as in what he looks like. I think it's just everything we need.
We need to know that they're out there still.
Yeah, and I think, there's been, I don't know if you've seen, there's been so much press in the last week or two, definitely on my feed, on social media as well as in the press, about Conor McGregor, who's been,
awful.
Done awful things and is now on the Jimmy Fallon show and brought back into the fold, as you said about the tennis player, there's all these people and it's and you start to believe that all sports stars are like that, and of course they're not. And then you see Haaland, underdog team, lovely fans, we know who he is anyway because of him playing in Britain, and he's behaving and he loves Jude Bellingham, who's obviously our star, and they were they're friends, and he's
got a cute little face that doesn't hurt, does it? He has got that cute little chubby cheeks face. When he smiles when he's on the pitch and laughs, he just looks adorable. I just want to pinch his cheeks.
Are you aware he's had years of rhetoric about how unattractive he is?
Well, yeah, and maybe that is what's cute. Maybe we are sick of looks maxing and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, this guy just existing and being a person is just refreshing. He did score 7 goals in 6 games this tournament. So obviously that's, if he'd just been a player that had been hanging around in the background being 6'5", he may not have gained so much attention. But he was in the UK's top 10 TikTok searches in the first week of July, which was a 300% jump or something stupid. So he was the most searched World Cup player that week. I think scoring the goals would definitely have been up there. But then when he scores the goals and then you look into him and you discover all his weirdness and his he's very public. He's quite good on social media, but also very private. And I think that's, he keeps the things that he wants to keep to himself. And I do think that that's kind of quite appealing in a way, in a world where we literally, see people monetizing their weddings and their babies. I think it's quite nice to see some guy who keeps everything quiet but also plays Minecraft.
I know, and it's just that unassuming nature, I think, as you said, as particularly football, it's so showy. So when you see somebody doing good or being kind of just cute, it's really noticeable, I think, as well. And obviously you can't help but notice him because he's so tall.
6'5".
But I just think as well, back to the kind of toxic masculinity, or is he the example of the opposite of that? What's the opposite of toxic
Positive.
masculinity? Positive.
Positive.
Positive masculinity. Just how I think we're desperate for that. So I think there's, that has helped.
It is interesting that he called out a fan filming him from his hotel balcony because he's because of his privacy. And again, he has not been that. It is just worth noting, seeing as we were talking about Chapel Roan again earlier in the last segment. He has called people out and they're not been picked up for it. So we do still have those different standards for what we would consider positive masculinity versus kind of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity. Is that him not wanting to be filmed is viewed as a positive for him. He's not chasing fame, which again is quite a thing, I guess, with footballers. He's almost aggressively normal. He games, cooks dinner, stays in, he just seems like a disturbingly normal human being, which we're not really used to seeing, I guess, especially from someone who's so striking, 6'5" with that baby face and so I think that adds a bit to it. But I mean, there's also stories about him, like we were talking earlier about him buying the was it like wouldn't be medieval
1594 rare edition of Heimskringla, the King's Sagas, one of Norway's most important historical works. He bought it for 1.3 million Norwegian kroner and has given it to the public library so people can go and look at it.
Learn about Norwegian history, which is like a lovely thing to do. So there's lovely stories like that. And it reminds me very much of the kind of thing we see. We do have these examples of positive masculinity. So this kind of fuss over Erling Haaland reminds me, he seems to be the internet's boyfriend, but which is probably because he's young. He's 25. It reminds me of when Pedro Pascal became the internet's daddy for a while, because he's 47, so obviously like really old. Is he 47? I don't know. He's around my age. But anyway, so he's obviously really old. But, Pedro Pascal is held up as that example of positive masculinity. And we also get the same thing with Keanu Reeves when we're constantly told of like the nice things that Keanu Reeves does, and sometimes it feels like, is the bar quite low?
Well, I also wonder,
like, are we supposed to be nice?
Yeah,
and somehow we're saying what should be normal as low.
I know, but I think women like that. Like, I'd really love to know what the guys think of Haaland. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we know we want emotional maturity. We know we want somebody that's going to treat us nicely. We know we want somebody funny. We know we want somebody kind. Like, we know that, like, actively is what we're looking for. And obviously you can see that in, as you said, Keanu or Haaland. But I wonder what the men see when they see him. And because if he's going to be a role model and going to be showing what positivity is, do the guys see that as positive? Do they see him as odd? Do they see him as weird for having a Birkin bag? Or are they, because we actually need them to see it. Do you know what I mean? It's all very well, we see him and go, oh, he's nice, like him, positive. But we need the guys to think that. Men to think that. Don't know why I keep saying guys. Sorry.
That's interesting. I mean, like, so the little bit, I saw like a thing, somebody had asked him, is he a boy or a girl? Because he's got the jiggy little face. And he said, well, my mum was a girl and my dad was a boy, so I'm mixed, which I loved. I thought that was hilarious. But again, are boys seeing that and taking that as a positive example? I mean, obviously he's a footballer, which kind of puts him in that position of it's a male dominated sport. Most boys are fans of football, they play football, they follow it, and him playing for a British team like Man City means that they are exposed to him. So I would hope that maybe some of it like sneaks through, that at least we've got like one out there giving a little bit of a kind of positive example. But I know what you mean, though. It's difficult to say, or is he kind of viewed as a little bit of a joke? I mean, because obviously one of the reasons that he is appealing is that he doesn't seem to care what people think of him as well. So we see that a lot where I mean, when I was watching the quarterfinals game, the commentators were saying, well, because they had to substitute him towards the end. I don't know if you watched it, because he was obviously gassed. I mean, it was like 35 degrees, so I'm not surprised. But the commentators were talking a lot about basically what no other player would get away with playing like him, basically. What he does is just hang around and wait for someone to pass him the ball and then immediately scores a goal. Like, he doesn't run around, he doesn't chase the ball. He just waits for it to turn up and then goes, goal! So the fact that
strikers do that, though. That's not like outrageously weird.
No, but they seem to think it was hilarious that, he's not that fit. He just hangs around there and waits for the ball to turn up. But he still managed to score 7 goals in 6 games. So, it's obviously working for him. If it wasn't working for him, it might be a bit harder to get away with.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's just interesting, hearing him spoken around like that in that football context, which is obviously the professional context that then like young boys will see him in. So he's good at the game as well, which I guess is a plus that you would hope that then, he's good at the game. They're watching him play well, that they would then see that as a bit of example. But it's hard to say.
It's going to be interesting because obviously his bestie is Jude Bellingham, and Jude Bellingham is the highest scorer and is our player. And obviously a lot of the stuff that's online is about the two of them and their relationship. And Jude has been showing his emotions on the pitch as well. And obviously, I don't know either of them, but they're both coming across as really nice guys. So hopefully this will rub off as in a positive role model. I'm really hoping. My worry, and more so, as I said, because we've got a British guy as well who's doing really well,
Find out tonight.
But worryingly, the way history has been is if we lose and if Bellingham, and I'm going to talk, I know we've moved on from Haaland to Bellingham, but messes up, he will then be villainised. This is based on history and how we've behaved. So we're kind of, I say we as a whole, are a little bit fickle when it comes to footballers. And I just want
that tends to be for English footballers. Again, in the quarterfinal, a Norwegian goal was disallowed because of a foul by Haaland.
Because of Haaland.
He pushed a player, but I haven't seen massive criticism of them for that. I've still seen largely positive coverage, which kind of gives me hope. I obviously don't know what the real, hardcore football fans are doing, but in the press and on social media, I haven't seen him being villainised for that. Whereas, you can imagine if if we'd lost a game and that was one of our players. Do you remember the David Beckham kicking someone incident? I mean, that was a little bit more petulant than what actually happened in this situation.
But he was the man that he kicked has come out since saying he antagonised and then he faked his response. And people were hanging effigies, is that the word?
Yeah.
Of David Beckham outside, hung outside buildings. And and this is what I think the Norwegians are very different as well. And I'm hoping things have changed. That's why I said based on history, they mustn't do anything wrong. But I'm hoping that we've got Haaland, but also we've got Bellingham. So we've got our English guy too.
We've got a little duo of positive examples.
Yeah, and actually their bromance and their respect for each other and their ability to show their emotions, which actually, let's face it, emotional maturity is the thing we really want from our guys. I keep saying guys, I have no idea where this has come from, are men. So I'm hoping that will carry on, but we need a domino effect, because yes, we've got Keanu and younger people. We've got Jordan Stevens, who's going out with Jade, that was in Little Mix. He's doing lots of podcasts talking about...
That was my I'm 47 and I don't have children face.
I know. Well, no, look him up. He's doing. He's now hosting Lily Allen's podcast that she had. She's now not doing it because she's got her album. He talks about positive masculinity and talks about and he's refreshing. Young blood talks about it. So there are more younger people, but I'm talking about 4.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But it is good to see, considering how much we hear about kind of the manosphere.
Yeah.
I'm very interested. I do think you can see, just in the way that these players even exist and the way that they're treated in the press, I think you can see a little bit of change.
Yeah.
Haaland was visibly upset when he got taken off at the end of the quarterfinals. And I can't help but contrast that to the footage of Gaza crying in the 90s and how he was and the way he was looked at for crying. And showing his emotions. So I do think even with that kind of toxicity out there, we are seeing those little tiny breakthroughs of positivity. And Haaland, Bellingham, I mean, even but Harry Kane seems he's one of those very quiet, serious footballers, isn't he? Who just it's like his job. Yeah, it's like his job, and he just gets on with it.
Very kind of looks like he's going to the office.
Yeah, he does, always. Reminds me a bit of Gary Lineker was always a little bit like that, wasn't it? When they always used to call him the nice guy. But I think that we are seeing those little changes in a sphere that's so notoriously hyper-masculine. as football. Just seeing those little changes, the way a footballer crying now is treated versus the way it was treated when Gaza did it in the 90s is, it does.
It does, but I'm now going to say something that sounds a little bit negative. I think I agree with all of that. Young boys, particularly teenage boys, young boys watching that, let's hope it infiltrates into their brain and realizing it's fine to cry. My worry is their fathers and their fathers' fathers, who I still see out being very vocal about stuff like that and are very, I was going to say toxic, but I don't know if it's extreme as that. Just
Old school
and just, would still, as long as he's winning, I don't care if he cries, but he's got to win. And I worry that the biggest influence on young people, it's really easy for us to say it's footballers or it's social media, and social media is a massive, and all the stuff you see on TikTok and stuff, it is a massive, but your parents have such a huge role. And having been in a pub in Spain with all the people watching England, we left at half time. We felt so uncomfortable in the environment that we left the place because of the misogyny that we were hearing and the way people, just the behaviour, and it's not those young people, it was my generation. And it's like, I just hope that there's lots and lots and lots of dads out there going, isn't Jude Bellingham wonderful? Isn't Erling, I keep calling him Eric, Haaland.
Erling Haaland,
wonderful. And look, isn't that good how they were happy and they were upset, or I want that. That's the bit that that is that missing piece, because without it, I think it's very hard to make changes from a celebrity. Like how we look to celebrities to be the role model and to make the change, but schools, parents, and social media. But social media is the celebrity. It is, it's the algorithm. There's all that stuff. But, parents played quite a huge role too. So you need to big up all you parents.
Okay.
Big up Haaland. He has a handbag, don't you know? He has a Birkin bag. There's a long way.
He has more than one. He has more than one. He has like 7. Like one of them was like worth, I have the number written down. 7 Hermes Birkin bags, including one that sold for $60,480 at Christie's. I also have a feeling I saw him in some good pajamas. I was once told to look up Erling Haaland as a person to celebrate good pajamas. I think he has a bit of a natty fashion sense as well.
I saw this post about how they'd split up Haaland into capital H-A-A and then capital L-A-N-D, so Haaland, and how we all want to go and live in Haaland because it seems like a really positive, wonderful place. I've got family that live in Norway, and one of them wrote underneath, Haaland is great, Norway comes a close second, waving the flag, and it was there is that it's much more positive. Yes. There, although I'm sure there's loads of issues, but there is a feeling of positivity.
I was quite taken with it. He seems to me in the Andy Murray was quite similar, and where he pulls people up at press conferences and things like that. So there are those positive examples of sports stars out there.
Yes.
He also, it's just worth noting before we go that one of the other things I noted that was really nice is that he has chosen to have. His mum was also an athlete, I think some kind of winter Norway sport, but he's chosen to have not just like his surname, Haaland, he also chose to have his mother's surname Braut on the back of his shirt. So I like that he has that kind of like quiet but official kind of recognition and respect for women as well. I find that pleasant, and I feel like we should mention it lots and more of it gets done.
Absolutely. And you know who was born here?
What? Oh, I didn't know that.
England. His
father, Viking.
His father was a footballer, I believe, and his mother, as you just said, was some kind of athlete. Did you just say? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He was born here, and then they moved back to Norway. I think his father was playing here, and then they moved back to Norway when he was like 3. So there's some people going, well, why can't he play for England? Why has he chosen to play for Norway?
Because
he's Norwegian. But
he might as well have a hat with horns.
It's also funny how he's a really successful footballer and you all want him to play for England because he was born here, yet you've got a problem with people that are born here that you don't think have rights to be here because they're not white.
That aren't white.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, because football is more important than anything, it appears, to some people.
Always.
Not to me.
Anyway, I think he's cute as hell and he's my golden retriever boyfriend, but might be a bit young for me.
Maybe.
So by the time this goes out on Friday, just to end, is that we're recording on Wednesday. So we're recording before the England semi-final tonight. So who knows what the results of that will be. And we'll see if Jude Bellingham is still an example of positive masculinity then, or if the whole country have decided that they hate him.
Hopefully
But
not.
in the meantime, what do we do? Haaland.
Thank you for joining us for another roundup of midlife chat, hot takes, and occasional moaning. Well, quite a bit of moaning.
Make sure you hit subscribe so your podcast app gently nudges you every Friday, because honestly, who remembers anything without a reminder this day? And also, we like people liking us because we're very needy.
And if you fancy being extra lovely, leave us a rating or a review. It helps more brilliant women like you find us. Have a great weekend, everyone, and make sure you find time for yourself. You deserve it.